Hi, I'm Sam from the Autodesk ShotGrid team. Welcome to the ShotGrid Setting Up My Environment with the Python API. In this video, we are assuming you are new to ShotGrid and have connected with the ShotGrid administrator from your team. We also assume that you have some Python knowledge. The Python API can run on all platforms: Windows, OS X, and Linux. ShotGrid and the Python API support complexity, but in this video, we'll be starting off simple. First, we'll need to set up a personal access token, which will allow Autodesk applications to authenticate APIs and run scripts on our behalf. We've created an in-depth tutorial which covers this process, and the link can be found in the description of this video. In this video, we'll cover how to set up the Python API and how to clone its repository. Later, we'll walk through creating a ShotGrid API instance and creating a shot to make sure we have our environments ready to go. Let's start with the Python API. ShotGrid provides a simple Python-based API for accessing and integrating with other tools. The Python API allows users to integrate their tools and access scripts integrated with ShotGrid's CRUD-based API. Before starting this exercise, there are a couple of requirements. You'll need to make sure that you have Git installed, and you'll also need to have a Python editor installed. We'll be using idle in this tutorial as our editor. To get started with the Python API, we are first going to clone the repository from our GitHub link. You can find this link in the description of the video. Once you've opened the link, click on Code and then the copy icon to clone the repository. From there, open the command terminal of the system and type git clone followed by the copied link. Once the terminal loads, we'll be able to see all the corresponding files that ShotGrid offers for the Python API. If you are installing a specific version from GitHub or the master branch from GitHub, you can use the following commands shown on screen. Now that we have our Python up and running, let's begin by creating a new script to obtain an application key from our account. To do so, we will navigate to our ShotGrid site and select the drop-down tab under the avatar icon to Scripts. Let's create a new script. We'll call ours Python script. Ensure to copy the application key while still in this pop-up, as we will be unable to do so once we create the script. Once we have copied our application key, let's connect our Python to the Python API we downloaded earlier. To do so, we'll open our terminal and select the Python API to configure the folders into installation. Great! Now let's get started by creating a ShotGrid API instance. This will establish our initial connection to ShotGrid using script-based authentication. Let's open our idle shell and create a new file. We'll import some code from an existing document, which is linked in the description of this video. We'll also ensure to use our ShotGrid site as our server path, our script name, and our copied script key we obtained earlier. Let's save this and run the file. We can now see our results obtained in the idle shell. Nice! Now that we've got our ShotGrid API instance connection, let's create a new shot. To do so, We'll be referencing additional code from the same documentation. Let's open a new file in our idle shell and paste the copied code. We'll make the same changes to our path, name, and key as earlier. Ensure to reference your own project ID value for ID. Let's save and run the file. We can now see a newly created shot with an ID value of 2428. Awesome! Let's now verify our new shot in our ShotGrid projects. To do so, we'll open our ShotGrid site to the Projects page and click Shots. Let's clear all filters in the Filter panel and include the ID value as a new column. Let's also input our newly created shot value we obtained from our idle shell in the search bar. We can now see our newly created shot here. Hooray! We also have a Toolkit API that is available to develop apps and engines, do advanced integration into our pipeline, and workflows. For more information about the Toolkit platform and Toolkit Core API, visit our developer documentation referencing the link in the description box.